Welcome back. If you're just joining us, good morning, and you're right in time for our conversation this morning, which is mental health. My name is Zinzi Kibiku. Thank you so much for sticking with KTN News. As we have this conversation here in studio, I want to encourage you who is watching at home, please feel free to call in and be part of the conversation, ask questions, or just drop in your comments, and we'll have those numbers at the bottom of your screen in just a few minutes. Those numbers will allow you to be part of the conversation here in studio. Allow me to introduce my panel this morning. Seated closer to me is Dr. Mike Njoroge. He is a psychologist, and seated closer to him is one of his successful patients, Sam Gitonga, who is a student, and Sarah Muni at my far left. She is a life coach. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Sam, allow me to start with you, and I want you to tell us your story and how it is that you found yourself to be one of Dr. Sam's, I want to say, successful clients. So share with Kenyans your story.
Okay. First of all, I'm 26 years old, and I met Mike early this year. I was addicted to doing drugs, but not that as hard drugs as such, but basically the simple drugs that are available in the community, that is cigarette, weed, and alcohol. So Mike and I shared some sessions, and since I was willing, that's why I became successful. Yeah.
And so far, how's that journey been for you?
It has not been easy, but since I have that interest, it has been quite successful. Yeah.
What about family and friends? What do they say?
First of all, my family is not that familiar with that kind of person that I am, but they are coping up. Friends, I had to put aside some friends.
Who were not sort of encouraging your journey?
Yeah.
All right. Dr. Mike, let me loop into the conversation. What more can you tell us about him and his journey to recovery?
Sam is a good example of what happens, especially when young people get to understand that they have a mental health challenge. And he came to that point of realizing that he needed to actually, get help and deal with it.
Right.
And that's why we got into contact, and we began counseling and psychotherapy. And I'm very proud that he's doing quite well.
So, Sam, would you say that it is the abuse of alcohol and drugs that so you take a different diversion, or rather it's what plunged you into mental health?
Yeah, initially.
Initially?
Yeah.
What else could have contributed to that?
A lot of social factors. Yeah. Such as family and also the societal environment.
All right. Sarah, you're a life coach.
Yes.
When do you know that you have as an individual, you've hit rock bottom, and it's probably high time that, you look and seek for help?
Yes, one of the things, let me start by saying this, one of the things that will make you happy in life is progress. When you don't see progress in your life, you find possibly if it's somebody who is in employment, you've been there for a long time, you cannot see growth, you cannot see progress, then for a long time, then you start being frustrated, and it always shows up in the things that you're saying, the things that you do. So you will, even before you speak about it, you'll be able to see some actions that depict that this person is going through, something inside, or has kept in something inside for a very long time. So number one is you find from the conversations that people speak, they're always negative, they're always try to, they're jealous of even successful people. They try to put them down, or, they're just jealous about people who are doing very well because they cannot see anything good happening in their lives. You will always know them through the way that they're speaking and also the things that they do. So it is very important, number one, to always, when you can't see progress in the thing that, whatever it is that you're doing, number one, seek help. So it is very good that he sought help, seek help. Because the problem that you're having right now, someone else out there has a solution. Right. Any problem that you have, there's somebody walking out there with your solution. So please, talk it out. And let me tell you something. People who get into depression and stress and panic attacks, it's not that because they are weak. It's because they are trying to be strong for a very long time. You think that you can manage your life, you're doing well, but then, you know, you end up doing very bad things, like that girl.
Yeah.
You know, you end up, you know, doing very bad things because you're trying to be strong for a very long time. Maybe there's some things that were happening to her that were not good. She has done this to me. I have noted.
You know, Sarah, I like the fact that you said you need to surround yourself with people who are going to help you. And Sam has said it so confidently. Like he said he had to drop a few of his friends who were not positively adding to his journey. Just paint for us, or just explain to Kenyans why it's so important, because we might take it for granted and just have it in the back of our minds, why it's important and healthy for you to be surrounded by colleagues, friends and family members who want you to win, who want the best for you, who will encourage you to know that your mental health is just as important as your physical health, your spiritual health, and any other factor that makes you a being.
It's very important to have people that inspire you, people that see greatness in you, people that inspire greatness in you. And most of the thing is that with friends that we are used to, you'll find possibly they only know you from your past. They really don't know much about your future. So they refer you to the things that you've done in the past. You need to have people who can see a future in you, can see greatness in you and inspire it. Those are the people who will really actually help you and work with you to your future. It's very important. And also look at the friends around you. What are they doing in their life? Are they doing any great things, you know, any exciting things? Maybe they're running or they're singing or they're doing, you know, exciting things. Because look around you, where they are going, those people who you hang out with, your 5 best friends, you're going to. If they're going there, if all they do maybe Friday night is party and all, and I mean, you're there too. If they're doing great things, if you're working with people who are great, they are writing books, they are launching companies, let me tell you, perhaps you're also there. Your life is also there. So it's very important to hang out with people who really inspire greatness in us, because we will be great and we will, you know, we'll start seeing progress in our lives. So that's very important. Change of friends. If there are people who can relay your destiny, is friends.
Dr. Njoroge, having positive people around you, how does that influence, or the ripple effect that it has to you mentally?
You see, what happens is the environment, especially the social, maybe cultural environment, really shapes, you know, what happens, right from, you know, our psychological all the way to just the general well-being. So what happens is the environment can, in a way, contaminate, you know, what's happening in your life. So it becomes important for you to think through and make good choices in regard to the environment, and especially the, you know, the socio-cultural. It's very important. So, like as you've had for Sam, being surrounded or having friends who are not fostering or, you know, making him, you know, make right choices and do the right things, in a way affects his psychological well-being. And therefore it's very important to make good choices and get to know, this is what I want to do, this is where I'm going, therefore I need to have to be surrounded by people who are going to where I'm going, or even maybe doing what is, you know, positive and making me better. Yeah, so we really need to think about, you know, the environment. That's very important in my opinion. Yeah.
Sam, I'm sure it wasn't easy for you to drop some of those friends that you mentioned earlier about.
Yeah.
How did you go about it? And sometimes do you regret ever dropping them, or it has worked very well for you?
First of all, I don't regret. And my strategy was changing the activities that I love. Personally, I love interacting with people. So I had to change my interest in the people I interact with. So the other thing I did, I connected with the church more. Previously, I never used to go to church, so I started developing my spiritual life. So
How did you sharpening your spiritual senses and becoming more spiritual help you go through this rough patch? How does that spiritual,
you know,
correlate?
when you develop your spiritual senses, you first of all start by going to church. That is number one. That was my number one for me. So when I went to church, I got people who would hold my hand. like Mike here was very fundamental in that. And they will guide me on how you interact with God and you are able to listen to the voice of the Lord.
Sarah, why is spiritual growth, or should I say spiritual nourishment, just as important, especially in one's journey to attaining mental health? What does the spirit part do for you in fighting?
Yes, spiritual health is the beginning of all wellness. Yes, because number one, if you don't have peace within you, because what it does is that it gives peace within. If you don't have peace within you, you don't have peace outside. So if you have things, if you have peace inside, then you start seeing around you, there is peace, there is order, things start to take some order. So it's very important to first of all pursue the spiritual part, because if there's the most expensive thing in the world is peace. If you have it within, you'll start seeing it even around you. So it's the first point of healing. It's the first point of acceptance that I have a problem and I need help. I even need God. If you actually recognize that you need God to be the solution, the problem that you're having, then you are on your way to recovery. It will be easy for you to obey when you're given instruction. It will be easy for you to follow instruction. It will be easy for you to do the things that you're told, and you start to see.
Yes,
very,
Dr.
very,
Njoroge.
very important. What they're saying.
You're right.
They've introduced a model, or maybe a perspective when it comes to mental health and well-being. There's the biopsychosocial spiritual, the biological aspects, the psychological, the social, and the spiritual. And what happens is at times we tend to neglect, or maybe not really emphasize on the importance of the spiritual. So you find we're doing well, maybe biologically, well psychologically, but then also socially. We think being all over and being surrounded by many friends or people. But then they've introduced the aspect of the spiritual, and we handle our spirituality in different ways. But then it is important to have that higher form of connection, because it gives you resilience. It makes you have meaning and purpose, which you can't buy from the supermarket or from some shop. So when that happens, it becomes like you're anchored, and then you're safe, and that's I agree with them.
Yeah.
That's very important.
So what you're saying is that all the four parts, your body, your
psychological, the social, and the spiritual,
are so important, and they're all interlinked.
Very important. I look at it like if you have a chair or maybe a four-legged stool, I would say we have the biological, the psychological, the social, and the spiritual. So if one arm or one leg of that chair is not there, or it's not in place, you might think the chair is stable, but if you sit on it, you can fall. So it's very important as we think about mental health and general well-being, we need also to consider the biological, the psychological, the social, and the spiritual.
Well, Sarah, the thing is, when it comes to mental health, especially if it is depression is behind the factor, a lot of people say it's also critical. People who, and I mean survivors, it's critical to know the difference between you just being sad today because it wasn't a good day for you, and you being depressed. There is a thick line between that. And of course, I also like to get Dr. Njoroge's medical aspect and scientifically. But there's a big difference between knowing when I am Zinzi, when I am sad, and when I am depressed. So it's sort of when I'm sad that I officially assess myself as clinically depressed. Yeah.
You see, for depression, most people never really know that they're depressed. They just think being sad, and sadness is an emotion that happens every day, maybe every moment, because things don't always go the way we want. So we find that you find that you're not happy. You just think that it's just it's just a normal emotion. But then when it's prolonged for a long time and it starts affecting your thought patterns, the things that you do, then perhaps you will need attention from a medical doctor. So depression is not something that really people actually know much about, or they realize that they have. But if you start seeing that it's affecting your like this is what happens when and this is how you know that you're having a problem. First of all, all, you find you sleep very, very late. Either you sleep very late, you wake up very late. Also because perhaps during the day, you feel like the day, you haven't done enough for the day. You still have some more to do during the day. So you sleep very, very late. So it's the thoughts that you have, your actions and inactions during the day, they make you feel that, there's still more to be done for the day. So you sleep very late. That affects your waking up patterns. And you find that it's a cycle that goes on and on and on. You feel you're not doing much in life. Then you need to seek attention of a doctor.
All right. So Dr. Njoroge, the clinical aspect of it, knowing just when you're being sad because you've had a bad day, and when the difference between, okay, I am clinically depressed, I need to now seek out help. The scientific part of it when it comes to proper assessment between the both.
Okay, there's, in life, you will find that things don't work out at some point, and you have this sad kind of feeling. That is fine. And most people talk about stress, you are responding to the pressure, and then people will respond differently. When it comes to like depression, there's an element of duration. Like if I'm only sad today or maybe for a few hours, I can't say I'm depressed. So there is, according to the diagnostic criteria, there's a duration. For example, if it's sadness or maybe loss of interest, there's a duration within which we can say, okay, this has been the case in this person, maybe every day, or maybe is it every hour, and then we look at the duration, and then we are able to make a clinical judgment that this is maybe depression or maybe anxiety or maybe some other mental condition. So the duration is very important. So you can't just say because you're feeling low or sad for a few hours or even maybe 1 or 2 days, we can't
call that depression.
we can't call that depression.
So, Sam, for you, when did you know you've hit rock bottom? At what point, what is it that in your life was the red flag for you? Like, wait, okay, I've hit rock bottom, let me look for help. What happened that was a siren for you, an alarm?
To begin with, I really love, I told you initially, I love interacting with people. So I found out that I don't maintain relationships. So, and I started evaluating myself well. That's when I realized when I introduced drugs in my life, that's when this habit started coming through. And at some point I found myself alone, so I decided, I think this is it.
Oh, so that being alone, like you said, since you are used to interacting and living with people, and you became now a man's island, that's when for you it's really kicked in the mind.
Yeah.
And why do you choose to talk about it so openly and so courageously?
Because it's my past. Yeah, the past is gone.
Because there's a lot of stereotype around mental health. People say it's witchcraft. People say in Africa, especially in African homesteads, we don't look up at it. Your parents beat you, they would remove a slipper to beat you instead of knowing the proper way to handle depression. So for you, how did you fight those stereotypes?
Being focused. When you stay focused, you are able to do away with all the other barriers.
Maybe just to respond to that briefly, the fact that he can talk about it from a position of victory, it indicates that he has processed that and he has accepted that he needs to move forward, journey to recovery. So that is very important. And we have expressions like people expressing what is going on in their lives, maybe through maybe art or maybe, so many other, there are many ways of expressing oneself. And for him, you heard him say that he didn't have that good social, background, support system. And that's why I earlier mentioned about the biopsychosocial spiritual. So the social aspect was, not very good. And that could have, affected his, psychological well-being. So it becomes very important for one to come to that point of victory and, coming out and expressing, what's going on. it's not so much about the stereotype or maybe the stigma. It's all about his well-being. And, that speaking about it is not so much of a weakness, but it's a sign of strength, because if I can talk about it, then it means...
it has no hold on me anymore.
Exactly.
Wow.
So, and that's very important.
Sarah, why is it that as human beings, whatever we refuse to understand, whatever we can grasp, or whatever is not in line with our personal ethics, we tend to then give it a bad light? For example, now with mental health here in Africa, like I said, would rather refer to it as witchcraft, or rather a few African parents would not understand the importance of mental health, and beating your child with a slipper does not fix the situation. So what is what is that human factor that whatever we are afraid of or we don't understand, we tend to not accept it?
Exactly. Whatever we don't, most of the time we find whatever we don't know, we want to, put it in bad light. But you know what? I saw a very interesting survey of the happiness index 2018. And it shows that, the countries where, people are very happy, you find people are very contented, you find less psychologists because people are happy. And I can tell you, countries, as you're saying, countries in Africa were down there. They were down there, they are like the ones who are supporting the list from the bottom. And you find most of us, and most young people actually, we are migrating because we are not happy. And even as parents, we need to understand that the children, we migrate from maybe from the rural areas to urban areas to look for jobs, because there, we can't find what we really need to support ourselves in life. The same thing happens even in Africa. If you look at Africa, in North Africa, people are migrating a lot because there are a lot of problems there. They're going to Europe, and they also get problems there because they are not happy, with what they have. They can't get opportunities in their countries. So if we don't look at this issue of mental health, because it all starts from there. Are you happy as a person? Are you happy? Are you able to work in an environment of peace? Are you able to exude peace yourself and get into things that really impact your society? If you cannot do that, then we actually go to these countries. So it's very important that we start thinking about mental health and actually investing in it. I mean, look for a psychologist. Even as children, look for a place where they can go and they are mentored and they are coached. It's a very important part of their life. You will start to see fruits, coming up from them.
All right, Dr. Njoroge, I think it's important that we highlight relapse prevention. Look, it is important, and it does happen. So can you really prevent relapses, or it has to happen for you? It's part of the growth process.
Well, it doesn't have to happen. When we get into therapy and treatment, we need to look at the relapse prevention very seriously, and also maintaining of already what has been achieved in the course of treatment. We don't have to relapse. And that's why every mental health professional, or even maybe the caregivers, is very important. Even as you plan and work out the treatment, you have in mind what you're going to do so that you can prevent relapse. And that is a challenge, because we have cases of relapse being reported.
So how do you prevent relapse?
It's by being aware that a relapse can happen. And then you become proactive, and you come up with mechanisms, or maybe a plan to prevent that, and to have indicators that would tell you that some relapse could be about to happen.
So it starts with mental awareness.
Yes, mental awareness. Yeah.
Which other prevention for relapses? After you've acknowledged it mentally, that I could possibly be heading towards a prevention.
Okay. First, it's on the person who's having the challenge to know that I could relapse, and maybe that can only come from the caregiver, or maybe the professional who's handling the case, so that the person is aware that yes, I could relapse. Also, the caregivers, or even maybe the professional who's handling the case, should always know that yes, relapse can happen, and therefore have like a plan. This is what I'm gonna do to prevent relapse. Like now for him, he's adjusting his, the social maybe settings, so that he's now with people who, are able to keep him in check and, just to support him so that he doesn't relapse. And it happens, like if there's no a good form of support, a support maybe system or mechanism, then, one can go back to the default settings and, begin to...
Sam, did you find yourself once in a while relapsing?
No.
You haven't relapsed at all?
No, but previously I tried to stop on myself. So I could find it, you go for some few months and then you...
And you see, he didn't have now what I said, a professional to walk with him, or just to, to take the journey with him. That's what we do. And also the friends, he's now having new friends who are doing well, so that keeps him in check. And then he's also aware that, he could, relapse, so he's, taking care of himself also. So
Sam, what did you do when you, because you say that you saw it coming from afar. So what did you do to make sure that you stayed focused?
First of all, I made him my friend. So most of the time we are always together. So whenever I have a challenge, he's the guy I talk to. So having a person who understands mental health and the psychological well-being, you'll also be able to understand and stay focused. So that's it.
That's very interesting. All right, when we're coming back from this quick commercial break, we'll take a look at how family problems are a big cause of mental health here in Kenya, and how you at home can be part and very sensitive towards family and friend members who, for them, are either clinically depressed or have anxiety. Plus, you also get to meet an interesting gentleman, Onyango Otieno, who is also a poet and a vocal person, especially online, and how he chooses to use his online influence and presence to talk about mental health here in Kenya and in Africa. So stay with us.